Hi, Leslie, and you're very welcome today to one of our live interviews. And thank you very, very much for offering to tell your story in relation to a long-term relationship with a narcissist. And as far as I remember from your email, your relationship lasted 6 to 7 years, which is long-term. And we were going to, if possible, if you can give us a synopsis of your relationship. And then today we were going to kind of concentrate on how you got away from the relationship and the progress that you have made and how you've noted the progress that you've made and things you've done to help yourself get to where you are today. So if I can hand over to you, thank you very much, Leslie.
Okay. Hi. To start with, and I think how other people have done, thank you so much for helping me. Watching your videos has been absolutely marvelous for me and been so helpful. So I can sharing this, but to me, most of the stories that I hear and how things happen, they tend to, as one person actually said, these people are just apes in a pair of socks. It was really quite funny how that was sort of put to me. But anyway, this particular person, I just absolutely adored. He was, and I think at the beginning he adored me as well. But during, I think there are rules that they don't tell you about that you're supposed to comply with, and you really don't know because you're not actually playing a game. You're in it for because you absolutely adore this person. You have so many likes, and on a very second sort of meeting, he sent me flowers to my work, and I was going down to MotoGP. Another thing that we had in common was sports, and he sent me a rose that was just divine, and I took it with me. He was just, it was absolutely beautiful. I was besotted with him, and as I said, I thought like-minded, but very early in the piece, it was whirlwind really, and within a couple of months he'd asked me to marry him.
Wow, that's narc fast.
I know. But I didn't know any of these, you know, but I'd actually so if I use some of the terminologies, it's what I've actually learned since. It's not really sort of anyway, we were to keep this a secret, this being engaged, because he needed to sort of talk about to his children, and he wanted to sort of take it sort of like slowly, but you know. So anyway, how can a person expect a girl to sort of be quiet about these things when they've met the love of their life and they become engaged? Anyway, you know, at my work, sort of someone had bumped into him sort of somewhere and congratulated him, and he was furious that I would dare sort of like tell anyone that, because I didn't realize at the stage, of course, he was setting me up. You know, he was, and anyway, so when I said, well, why couldn't I sort of say and all of this, anyway, that sort of like that all blew over. But anyway, so I actually did sort of say, well, if I can't sort of, this doesn't really make sense to me. But anyway, I loved him and we just kept going, you know. Yeah. And but there were sort of little things that sort of, there were lots of red flags, but I dismissed them really because I thought that, well, to me, love is, I thought that love was, you know, like conditional. I give non-conditional love. you know, I just love people, but I hadn't realized that people expected things from you, you know. And he had a young son, and he was into the music, the sort of music and I actually felt at one stage that I was a bit of a stepping stone, that he was just really with me to sort of help his boy along.
Right.
And but anyway, and I got very close, but I could never get really close. Every time I would get close to them or everybody, there was something that would happen to keep me away, you know. So I couldn't get really, really close, you know. So evidently this is a sign as well. Anyway.
And sorry,
so,
Leslie, can I just ask you, did he have anyone else in the background, like an ex-wife or anyone? Is that why he wanted you to keep things quiet? You know, was he using his child as an excuse, or?
He was using his child as an excuse, but what he had was supposedly his best friend's widow, and she had got very sick. And I think at this stage I was the one. She was the one that he set up, and she got sick, so he looked for somebody else, and that was me.
Yeah. Okay, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah. No, it's fine, because you should, because I might start rambling.
Okay. No, what you're saying is amazing. So keep going.
Anyway, and so in hindsight, when I sort of look back, and at the end of it, really he came to me, this is the end of it, and sort of said that Marion had a new man, you know. And I said, oh, how wonderful. And he treated her, as he told me, as his sister, but we never ever got together as like how you treat your sister. She didn't like me, you know. Why didn't she like me? But he sort of said that he tried to contact her because it was a weekend that she was spending it with this new man, and he was a bit worried about her, so he rang her on some ungodly hour. And I said, why would you do that? I said, you don't even ring me at that time of the night to find out about me. And
is this when you said this lady's name, is she the person you're talking about a few minutes ago, his friend's widow?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Anyway, and so that was sort of like at the end of it. And and she's quite a wealthy woman. And sadly, it appears that he was I was just really the fill-in while he was sort of sorting out with her, you know. So and he's moved on back, you know. He's moved back. And one time you said in one of your videos about them sort of like moving back, and I'm sure that's what he sort of did, you know. Anyway, lots of things happened way in between all of that. So, but it was, everything evolved around money and his lack of all the time. And we went up to Queensland very, very early in the piece because he was into Austin cars. And he said, well, we'll get you sort of an Austin that we can do up together, and which was wonderful. But when that came back and we'd had that, and I got this little Austin and needed more things done to it. But he sort of said, well, I know this is a present for you, but I can't really afford to have this done, you know, this, it's sort of painted. And I said, well, ooh, okay. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just take out a loan. I mean, the present was that he actually got the basics for me, and this is something we can work together anyway. But I didn't realise that was sort of like the start of the borrowing.
Yeah.
You know, and anyway, but taking credit for everything. So, and then during this relationship, but it wasn't really a relationship, it was a relationship on my part, but I think it were all conditions. And I gave him the exposure that he needed with my work, and he would come to my work bringing flowers and things. And I used to think, wow, how wonderful that was. But I realized after a while it was for other people, not for me, to show how wonderful that he was. Anyway, yeah, so.
Did you get married at any stage?
I didn't get married, and he was really cross about that. We did share a house. Yes, he was really cross about that. And because up to then we had started to share, and I was paying the bigger part of the rent, and there would be lots of times he would say, oh, I can't afford it this week. Can you sort of like,
yeah.
Can you do this?
Can you do it? Yeah.
Yeah. And these are the things that I will be sort of sharing with you guys that nobody like knows about who I'm with, because they'd say, oh, why would you put up with that? Well, because when you're in a relationship, you do these things, and then eventually it's going to be your time where they're supporting you, you know, or
give and take, kind of. Yeah,
give and take. I didn't realize at that stage it was going to be all take.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I sold my house, and we were sort of like renting in this, so I sold my house sort of somewhere else, and I hadn't ever been on a holiday. Everything was a working holiday, but I virtually sold my house to reboot my my music career. And so I got us to go to New York, where he used to work, and I thought, wow, that's really great. He is a like-minded, somebody who's traveled, you know, so that I can have this communication with. And anyway, he couldn't really, he said, he afford it. So I paid for us to go to New York, and we stopped off at Japan on the way sort of back, and we went to Formula One, and I'm a MotoGP fanatic, so
exciting.
Yeah, very exciting, and the holiday of a lifetime, really. And anyway, so that was all wonderful, and of course I'd sort of planned for it all, and there's actually a new song that I'm going to be doing at the moment, and it's called I'm Just a Gigolo. And I sort of actually felt through the whole of the holiday, it was like I was paying for him, and he was performing for me and helping me and doing all this, you know. So yes, but as I said, I really adored him. And so I couldn't understand sort of some of the things that happened next, you know. Anyway, so we got back to Australia after a sort of holiday, and we went to MotoGP down here because it was in October, and I sort of included his son, so we all went down, you know, which was absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
And one of his children, his younger son. Anyway, we were to go to Bathurst a few months later, but I said, well, after the trip, that I sort of couldn't really, you know, that I couldn't get the tickets when he wanted them. Anyway, so what he did was, because I wasn't paying for the tickets, he actually cancelled my ticket and just kept his son and his ticket.
No
to
way.
leave me out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. And he said, oh, well, because I have a balloon phobia. And he said, oh, there are lots of balloons there, and you said that you didn't want to go. So he lied and made out to these people who were friends that I had not wanted to go. Yeah. So he kept this ticket, and he totally never. And I said, well, I'm still going. You know, I'm going to go. But, you know, I couldn't understand why he didn't include me. Anyway,
yeah,
so upset about it. And then soon after that, it was Christmas time. And so I just, you know, and not that I'm ungrateful about it, but you expect some sort of inclusion when you've had a big holiday like that with someone that you've been with for a few years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a terrible thing to do. Just.
Yeah. So at Christmas time, he said I spoiled every Christmas. And but the truth is that he did, really. Every holiday he sort of spoiled. But this was, I always felt that he had this one-upmanship with his ex-wife, with the children, because she got the business. And he said that she got the business, that it was a very good business, because all of the children were under 21. The 3 children at that stage were all under 21, and that she got the business and virtually, you know, sort of everything that because of their age, you see. And I thought that he would do this because of one-upmanship for his ex-wife. So he got these things for his children, rally driving, which I absolutely adore. I adore any sort of like fast motorsport, you know, hence MotoGP. And I love rallies and being the co-driver, you know, all of this. Anyway,
really?
He got
co-driver, really?
I love it. I love anything like that.
Okay.
I love it. And anyway, so I've got a little Austin Healey Sprite, you know, that I've done up, you know, a lot myself. Anyway, so he at Christmas time, he gave that like a weekend of rally driving, and he got me some earrings.
Yeah.
And so it started like that, really.
Okay. That's a devaluation in itself, you know. It's kind of,
I was like the au pair girl, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so these sort of things went on all of the time, and then he would create some sort of fight or drama, and then he'd go off and obviously try someone else on for size, which I did never know about. And it was all for money. It was all about money. He would be aiming for people and women with money.
Yeah.
So we were to all, you know, keep him, you know, in a style that he was accustomed to. And I started to say, oh, I can't afford him anymore, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
I just can't afford him anymore. So and I actually did sort of say to his wife later on that unless I was paying, I wasn't included. And that's how I felt, you know, sort of towards the end. Anyway, so he slipped up quite a few times towards the end. And and during all of this, I got myself a motorhome with sort of some of my money from my house. And because when I was working away, it made more sense to have a motorhome that I could be in rather than spend all my money on hotels when I got away gigs, or if I, you know, sort of got gigs. And of course, before all of this, my lifestyle really suited him, because when I had time off from this sort of work of entertaining people, I didn't really like to socialize too much. So he would go to all the parties and keep up that end of it, and I never worried about it too much.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I was really, I'm an ideal person for a narcissist, it seems, because of my lifestyle, and of course, because of my lifestyle, people think that I'm really rich, but because of the way I'm flamboyant. But I'm not. I'm really, really poor. I just love life. And I will spend my last buck like I've got a million.
Well, then you're rich. You're rich, Leslie, if that's your attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and I don't let monetary things stress me and I eliminate lots of things, but anyway, so this was the thing with the motorhome. And I love sharing. I love sharing. And this was sort of all fine. So he made out that he was sharing with me. But that was all. He had to go away lots of times. I used to say he has so much boy time. But that was because I see now he couldn't keep up the facade of being the person who I was, because these type of people, they're trying to steal your light, who you are, your essence, your love, your passion. No one can get it. And they go away feeling strong and they are giving it to somebody else. And the thing is that will last. Only my light will last with him for a few months. He'll be sitting up there. But what's he doing now?
Yes. Exactly. You've got it. Exactly. That's exactly the truth. Wow.
And the other thing as well, he'd always how would I be too anxious to how do they say that? I forget how there's definite words that they presume too much. First of all, when they're setting up, obviously, these other scenarios, when they're monkey branching, they think, wow, this is good, this is better. And things that they don't see what they've got, and they've jumped before they've sort of even worked out, sort of like, is this a good move?
They underestimate and overestimate, and they don't see the real picture. They've magical thinking, and they kind of lurch from one situation to another and cause drama in every situation. They don't appreciate what they have. They devalue it.
And devaluing me as well was it would be, oh, you always act like this. Unless you're getting 100% of my attention, you act like this. Your insecurities are really amazing, incredible. So I would get that all the time. I would get that on texts, and so you start to sort of doubt yourself and all these things of being.
It's to dim down your expectations. It's to kind of put you down and say, you're expecting too much of me, and in fact you're actually not getting half of what you should get from a relationship, but they're not even prepared to give you that. So they're telling you off and dimming down your expectations, and it's a devaluation at the same time. And it's also huge projection. He wants, or the narcissist wants 100% of your attention, and for you not to be attending to yourself or anybody else.
So I think probably was a couple of final straws. One is when I was out in the Austin and I didn't have any service. I broke down in a really bad spot and I was in danger of my life. I felt it's a tiny little car, and it was on a hill, and the brakes aren't that good in these antique cars. And there was no reception. I couldn't get reception. So I needed to get the NRMA, but I couldn't think properly. And he would have me always in a state of, what do I need to do now to sort of make everything good, for him to love me, or whatever, or however. Anyway, I tried to contact him and he was uncontactable. And it was then I thought, this person is never going to be here to watch my back. Now, the week before that, I had taken him to have a colonoscopy and looked after him, make sure that he ate all the right things, and picked him up afterwards and did all this. And he went away for a few days, didn't even contact me, and I was out in the vehicle, and I couldn't even contacting him. And afterwards, he couldn't even, he said, well, so what? I wasn't around. Well, it was a really a big time, that you need that person who you love to be there to sort of support you, and he wasn't. He was off helping other people.
Yeah.
And that was how it got, really. He would put everybody else before me, every single person before me. I didn't mind, of course, being the children when they were around, being sort of like spoilt and everything. How wonderful. I love to do that myself. But when always you are put second to everybody,
Yeah.
in a relationship, it was like he was having the relationship with his younger son, and I was just the hang along.
Irrelevant when the son was there.
Yeah.
I've experienced that as well.
And I wasn't included at all, and even things that they were going to do, like this one time. So at Christmas, when he'd actually said that he could only afford, when he took the boys on the rally, and he gave me a pair of earrings. During that time, he was on the internet all the time, and he bought some wheels for his car, his luxury car. And I said, well, that is really terrible. You couldn't afford to include me in the present, yet you've bought some luxury cars, wheels for your car. And he said, oh, don't go on about it. This is how it is. And anyway, a few days after that, I was at work. Now, he could have waited till I'd finished work and gone down and got these. He took his son down to Melbourne to pick up these wheels and let me know when he was halfway down there that he'd gone. So I had that sort of treatment for a long, long, long time. That type of and being isolated from everybody. And it got so I did a sculpture for one of his friends, and he hated that, I think, because it came from me and not him. So he worked it a way that it came from him. He would steal all of the things that I did, as his own. For attention, I guess. I'm not sure. But so the last straw with that one friend, which had obviously been bagging me or bad mouthing me or something, he after sort of like all this sort of going on, he was going off on a cruise with these people, but I wasn't invited because his friends don't like me.
Oh my God. And
what had I done to upset the friends because they didn't include me? Now,
you were his partner. Now you were living with him. I
was his partner.
Yeah.
But and that's how he'd led me to believe. But I during all of this, when all this other stuff happened, I actually moved into my motorhome. So I was seeing him from my place, if you like. But you can still be, you're still partners. You don't have to sort of like be living under the same roof.
No, you're in a relationship and
you're in a relationship.
Engaged.
So what I'd sort of worked out was that then, because of my work, and I'm sort of away a lot, he was away, with the children, and it's not like he treated me like I was too needy, and to be put first in your relationship, but everybody else was put first. Friends, everybody was put before me. So when I found out, and early in the piece, his daughter had a 21st birthday, and I wasn't invited because his ex-wife was paying for it, and I wasn't sort of included. Anyway, when he told me that he'd, so this is like 6 years later, he sort of said to me that he was invited on this cruise, and he was sort of going off with them, and they're all couples, and why did he not want me to be there? But anyway, he sort of said, oh gosh, are you going to be like how you were at Liz's birthday party? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I went, oh my goodness. So he'd actually put me in this little box. 6 years had gone by, and he'd actually had me in this little box of what I was supposed to do and what role I was supposed to play.
Yeah.
And I was to stay how I was 6 years ago. There was no advancement in the relationship, none whatsoever from me. And there was all this future faking all the time. And anyway, so he finally made an argument happen, and virtually, and it was because he planned for 3 years of doing up his rich friends, and I say rich friend because this is why he was doing it. He was helping him with his house for cheaper rent, I suppose, really, and he didn't speak to me about it. So he'd actually secured this thing of running around after this person and fixing up their house rather than building something for us.
Yeah. Even though,
like a future for us.
Even though your understanding of the relationship was that you were still engaged and you were still going to get married, would that be the case?
Well, yeah. He also made up. We actually got engaged twice. But yeah, but he even lied about sort of that. He said I threw his ring back at him twice, and I said no, you tried to ask me that to put your son in. It never happened like that at all. Anyway, so I could see that he was trying to make me say that that's what happened. Yeah. Obviously, because they like to be a victim. I don't know about that, but so anyway, and I said no, that isn't how it happened. And I said, and how can that be? I still have the rings.
Yeah, but a gaslighting there, I would have to say. Unfortunately, that's
which I love to. Anyway, yeah. So there was lots of this, and I still loved him. Yeah. And I would I just couldn't see what was happening. I just couldn't see it. And anyway, then the last fight that he created, and I guess this was going to be the final one for him, stepping off to somebody else or going back to this other person. Somebody, when I was in the laundromat, said, oh, you're with such and such, and I said, oh, well, yes, but no, he's sort of gone off. I've done something sort of wrong. And she said, well, I have a little story to tell you. And I couldn't believe the story she told me. She was another hairdresser. And he'd actually sort of, and I thought it was possibly that somebody had misunderstood it because he was so charming and everything. But anyway, no, it was about a money issue. And I couldn't believe it. Anyway, I thought that I should let him know that there was, so I did text him and said about this person that has an issue with him from the past, and it still will be fixable. He needs to get onto it and fix it up, and I mean, he'd send me flowers at work. He could send this other person flowers and say, goodness me, there's a misunderstanding here. That's what sort of person that I thought he was, you see, that he would go, wow, here's so much money, like for your trouble, like I would never go there. Yeah. Well, his reply took days to come back, was, that's fine, but I don't know this person. Great advice. Anyway, and because that nearly killed me, because that meant that it was the truth, what this person had actually informed me about. This man who I thought everybody loved, and myself included. How could that? And I've put it out there nicely so he had a chance to sort of sort it out how an adult would. And I actually showed her the comment that he made, and she was flabbergasted, you know, of and she's known him for years, and that was the sort of and then I found out that he was had gone sort of back to his best friend's widower.
That's so painful. That's just awful.
And the argument that all I did was I put down boundaries, and I thought, so there were two boundaries. One was I said, where do I fit into this? You've made this sort of like arrangements for the next 3 years of your life. Where do I fit in? Now I dare ask where I fitted in, and he just ran off like a frightened bunny, and put it all back on me, that it was all me. And there was one other thing this other person said was, well, when his ex-wife divorced him, and I'd always heard from him and his friends that he divorced her for because she went off with somebody else. Okay, so but the main thing was with his son, he'd actually told me that I told him some secrets that you do with your partner, and it was about my relationship with my daughter, and she accused me of some awful things. Of course I told him, and he told me that every time that his son would distance himself, be distanced by me, was because of his ex's new partner knew my daughter, and they heard all these stories about me. So I actually went to her and sort of said, you should I should have come to you earlier so that you know that there's always, as Dr. Phil says, two sides of the pancake, you know, no matter how thin it is. And I wanted you to know that I love your son, and I will only want the best from him. And whatever you've heard from your new partner, I think you should sort of hear my side of it too. And I can imagine that you would feel a bit sort of awful putting your trust in someone if you'd heard things like that. Well, I could not believe the look on this lady's face, because she didn't know a thing about this.
Which lady is this, Leslie? Sorry, I was just a bit confused there.
His ex-wife.
Okay, thanks.
The mother of his children.
Okay, I understand, yeah.
And anyway, so, and then this is when I found out that, and I sort of said, I just need to know, I said, I've come here to sort of talk about anything else other than the fact that it was brought to my attention that you actually divorced him, and I said, and I thought that it was because of this, you see. And she said, well, she said, it was both of us. She said, but he's a very difficult man to live with. And she said, but no, he got equal the amount of money, and I got the business. And I met him 2 years later, and he didn't have anything left.
Would you think that he had it in accounts, that he just wanted to spend your money rather than his money?
Yeah, probably. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, there we are. So, so this actually happened just before the fires, and I moved into my motorhome, and I had moved into it quite a bit before. So I'd actually lived in it for quite a few years as such. But anyway, and I was caught between the fires, and so all this happened in about November, and I wanted to contact him because the fires were just terrible, and I tried sort of contacting, but And you want to know how awful that is, totally being on your own, and your man's just dropped you like a hot potato. You haven't no sort of what's going on. So I found out after, he's there helping all these other people and just totally left me to fend for myself. So, you know, I can't understand how someone who's supposed to have cared for you would do things like that, you know, and not care. I've tried contacting him, and during COVID, I sort of said, well, these terrible times, I know that you said that you didn't want anything more to do with me, but I'm here letting you know that you're loved, and that I'm thinking of you, and because that's what you do. And I thought, I'm not going to. I know everyone says that you should not contact people and block them and all of this, but I thought, I'm not going to change who I am to because I care about people.
Yeah.
And I needed to know that he was okay, you know. But I heard nothing, absolutely nothing.
So people have to recover in their own time and in their own way, and they have to do it the way they want to do it. You can listen to the advice, and it's up to you, you know, how you manage things. But how do you feel now? How do you?
Well, I feel it's a good year and a half
Okay.
sort of since, and there was one time, I know there's sort of like no contact, and I don't need to contact him for anything, but I was actually going to, I'll laugh about this, thank him for isolating me, because covert hasn't been a problem at all, because I'm used to isolation. But, and I've had a person of flight, you know, when I sort of get hurt, I sort of flight, I've had to stay still, and I've really had lots of lessons to learn for myself from all this. And it was just like God actually sort of was smacking me and saying, can you not see, you know, please, like, you know, like,
yeah, Leslie,
how bad do I have to throw this at you to realize that you've got to do some work on this? So so the work actually sort of been amazing. And because to start with, I went to the gym all the time, and of course that closed down, because I heard that was really good for you, because even though I'm a positive person, and this is to lots of people out there who would know, I was suicidal. What was the point of me living if I couldn't get the person who to love me back? And my self-esteem was totally sort of shot. And I just couldn't believe, really. Anyway, things just kept happening with the fires. I thought I blew up the engine of my motorhome. It was just one thing after another. And I thought, how am I going to get through this?
Yeah.
And it was terrible. And I feel like sort of crying now. But I think that people are hard on themselves, and people take different times of being able to come to terms with the things, or heal yourself. Especially, I'm a really strong, heavy. I think a lot. This person comes into your mind all the time. How do you stop that? Well, I'm also I have lots of jobs. I fill myself with work, but you still can't get this person out of your head. You know, your thoughts go back, and how you feel about yourself, and your esteem is shot, you know, everything. So one thing I did for myself, I always had crosswords, and I have the code words. They've got numbers, but they haven't got the letters, and you've got to work out the numbers for the letters. Well, during all of this, and my last few years with this sort of person, and I hadn't seen it that this is what had happened, but I'd lost so much confidence that I had to look in the back because I couldn't like
fill it in, or
believe what I'd come up with, because I was always wrong about everything, and this is how they get you to feel. So I would be looking in the back for because I couldn't quite put the letter down there, even though I knew that that's what the letter should be. I didn't have the confidence to sort of put it down.
That's shocking. That's post-traumatic stress. It's terrible. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's good. So how I know that I have progressed is that the last 3 months I'm starting to trust myself again, and I haven't looked at the clues once, and I get it right every time.
That's an amazing indicator of healing. You know, it's a very unusual one, but it's amazing because it's very factual.
Yes, and I think I'm an earth sign, and I'm very factual. And if that sort of type of thing helps somebody else gauge what they're how they're up to, and it gives you then confidence. You go, hey, I'm getting myself back.
Yeah.
So and then the other thing is, which is to do with my work, but during COVID I got hold of some big band sounds and big band arrangements, and what I started to set up before was before COVID was these pop-ups where I had backing, my backing tracks, but not the big band ones. Well, I challenged myself this year, and I learnt 40 new songs for a concert. Wow. And that's music and the words and everything in about 4 months.
That's incredible.
And I put on the concert 3 weeks ago, and people are still ringing me and telling me what a magical time that it was, and how I've improved even than I was before. Now, and as I said before, I just love, my thing of being here is to make people happy. During the fires, I would put on little concerts for people to lift up their morale and sing to them, and that made me feel good because I was able to give something to someone to relieve their stress.
Yeah.
So, and it sort of helped with my healing. So I probably do encourage people to, you know, it doesn't need to be those sort of things, but even if it was so hard to start with, I didn't feel like even getting out of bed or washing myself, you know, alone learning new songs. But when you have a passion for something, so pick something that you have a passion for. Every single human being has got something that they have a passion for.
Yes.
And pick that thing, even though you don't feel like you can, you're going to get any rewards from it at that time. You're just going through the motions. Or can I cope with this? And because when I'm sort of totally upset, I can't sing a note, you know, and that's sort of like, but I push myself, and so with that, and the crosswords, and I'm an artist as well, and so I've had an exhibition, and I because of the fires, I got all of my stuff out and fixed it all up. So the thing is to do things that you feel sort of good about. Now, you will never be the same again. I will never be the same again. Thank goodness, because I will always see that type of person coming.
Yes. Oh, Leslie.
Always.
Oh my God.
I know now. And I've had so many life lessons and watching all of like yourself particular have such a connection with what you say and everything. I feel everything that you say. And I've actually looked back, really. I didn't know this before. I didn't know this, but my mother, I think, was a covert narcissist, and my father was an overt narcissist.
Wow.
And my daughter, and I'm going to actually get an appointment with you, sort of really, because how come my daughter has turned out like that? She's done awful things, and I just loved them all. You know, what can I say? I used to say I had a brilliant childhood, but I couldn't tell my mother things because she'd use them against me, and I didn't understand that wasn't quite right.
Yeah. How could you?
And so I think that I've looked now, and gosh, I'm 69 years old, and it's taken me all this time to sort of realize that I had some work to do on, you know, like from my childhood. And the love that I thought has always been conditional in my life, always been conditional. So, but I give unconditional love. And anyway, there we are. So if a couple of the things that I've said that sort of like have helped me see how far I'm getting with my healing helps even one person, to me, that's great. That would be great, you know. So
thank you. You're fantastic. Honest to God, you're just such an accomplished, wonderful person. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
Can I just ask you a last question, Leslie? Do you feel now going forward, like given time, that if you were to get into another relationship, that you would, kind of, you would see the signs, that you would feel confident enough at some stage to accept love or to trust yourself with someone?
Yes, I would. But at the moment, I'm actually doing things that make me happy.
That's just, yeah.
Because as girls as well, I know men go through this, and I heard that lovely, the other, my heart bled for him, that it happens more sort of like, and when I say this about sort of women, as girls and as little girls, we always have to put other people first and look after everybody else before ourselves. And that goes hands in hand with, so we're a narcissist delight, that sort of person, because all you're wanting to do is make sure everybody's catered for before yourself. And we have to say, oh, look, actually, and here's another one as well, because it happened at my work as well, all at the same time. There was a narcissist there that made my life absolutely miserable after years of looking after this place. Anyway, I just walked. And that's the other thing too. It takes two people to fight. I haven't done that with anybody. I have just said, no, it wasn't that way. This is how it was for me. Yeah. More likely. But never going into an argument. It takes two people to argue. If you don't argue, there's no argument.
That is a really, really good point.
You know, so, but I've learned how to say sort of no. I'm just a girl who can't say no. And I would be, if people rang me up for a job and I was feeling exhausted, but they would tell me that they were sort of like, oh, they were desperate, you know, whatever. And so I would say, oh, well, okay. So I would be thinking of that other person and not about myself. And the other week, you said something that was so poignant to and helped me so much. You said that someone said to you, like, love yourself. And you went, I do love myself. And I'm going, yes, I do love myself. And but the thing is that and you actually put it sort of in a way that I could relate. So I thought this out. Yes, I do love myself. You know, I like what I do. I can spend all this time on my own. I'm one of these people that can spend a lot of time on their own. But anyway, but you said, like, treat yourself how you treat people that you love. And so I started to do that. So when they rang me up and said that they were desperate, and I thought, wow, they waited all this time. And I was just going to jump in and sort of say, oh, I'll come and help you. But I was exhausted. And I said no. And I actually said no. And I had to have a glass of wine. And I'm not really a big drinker. But I felt terrible saying no.
Yeah.
And to look after myself. But for your help, I have learnt how to say no. It's very early stages, but it's like baby steps, but I'm learning how to treat myself how I treat, like if your man comes home and he's taken on another job and you go, oh my goodness, darling, that's not good. You know, you're exhausted now. Have a think about that.
Yeah.
That's how I treat people I love, to sort of be there as support and see if they're overdoing it, or, you know, you can offer your support. And so that's what I said to myself. I sat down and I said,
that's just amazing. Oh.
So
yeah, good.
That's been help. I'm doing things that I love. I do drawing. I'm doing I'm starting sculpture again, because I'm so passionate sort of about it. So, hey, you know, there is life after narcissists.
Yeah, that's just wonderful. And what, you're an inspiration. You're even an inspiration, like, for my healing, to hear what you're doing. It's like we can really support each other, you know. We need to hear that people have succeeded and have come out of it. It's still a journey. Like, I know it'll take a long time. It might be a lifetime journey, but it's one, if we stick with it and commit to it, we can really progress as people. So that's a gift we give to ourselves after them, I think.
Yeah. Because it's very easy to sort of say in the heat of the moment, that's it, I'm out of here, blah, blah, blah. But then it's the aftermath of that, the lonely days, nights, the lack of someone who you love to cuddle, all of this, the interaction of conversation. This is why it's so beautiful. I switch on every time. You know, I listen all the time, because it sort of grounds me again, and it's not such alone. You're not.
Yeah,
so
you're not.
alone.
Yeah. That's what I felt too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well,
thank you. No, thank you. This is really going to help people. This is really, really going to help people. So thank you for giving of yourself. Okay, so I'm going to press the end button. Leslie, I'm going to be in touch with you via email, and have a good night for the rest of us. I know it's nighttime where you are.
I'm going to go and do a couple more songs. I've got a couple new songs that I'm just learning, and I'm a jazz blues singer.
Oh my God, I love jazz blues. Oh, well, if you ever feel like sharing, I'll put one up on YouTube for our community. If you ever feel like sending me one.
Well, I'm on Spotify.
Oh, under what? Tell everyone.
Oh, well, I'm under Leslie Lambert.
Leslie Lambert.
And the genre is jazz blues. There are 3 CDs. Okay. And it's not my current work, because they're not big bands. They're with a trio that I recorded in Wollongong in New York, so in Australia. And they've got my drawings on the front of them. So you'll see they've got botanicals on the front of them.
Okay, wow. So we can feel we know you now, you know, after the interview.
Wonderful. And plus, I'm in a couple of people's autobiographies. I used to tour with jazz legends. You know,
my God. Look at you. That is amazing. Oh my God. Well, I'm really going to look at downloading that music and listen to it. And gosh.
Okay. Well, there are 3 of them. One is You Don't Know Me. One
It wasn't written by a narcissist, was it?
No, but like what's really strange with some of these new songs that I'm doing, I'm actually saying now, gee, I think a narcissist wrote this.
Yeah.
The lyrics to this.
You never know. You never know.
Anyway, yes, because there's one, but on this album, this is before I really just knew, because I, as everyone else, I thought narcissist meant that they just looked in the mirror all the time. So,
Yeah.
and I started looking up, you know, sort of money, because I knew we had a money problem, but money, and then sort of like problems, and then the word narcissist came up, and then it said, oh well, yes, but then it said covert narcissist, and I thought, oh, I'll have a look at that one, and I went, oh my god, and it just jumped out of the page at me, and I went, yes, you know, this is great. Anyway, so we're going on to that. So yeah, so on my CDs, there's one, I think it's on one of the CDs, it's called That's All, and it's a Peggy Lee song, and I'd like you to listen to that one first. And
okay, let me write that down. What's the name of it?
It's called That's All.
Peggy Lee. That's all.
Oh well,
Right.
it's not. I haven't given any acknowledgement to Peggy Lee, but that's, so cross that out. But it's
Okay.
my name, Leslie Lambert.
Leslie Lambert. Okay.
Leslie Lambert, jazz blues, and that's just one to listen to. But
Okay.
if you like them anyway.
Okay. All right.
Well,
we better end. We've been talking for ages. It's all really good stuff.
Right.
Okay, well listen, have a good night, and I'll send you an email with the video probably tomorrow, if that's okay.
Yes, okay. Well, I don't this is so new to me, and thank you for getting me to go on Zoom. I'll be able to contact a few people now. So they'll be able to do it for me. So thank you for that. But I'm almost computer illiterate, but I don't check my emails very often, but I will look tomorrow.
Cool. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
gorgeous person. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you, Donna. Bye. How do I stop this? Just
see the end button on the screen there. There will be an end button.
It says leave?
Yeah. Leave me.
It says leave?